Welcome to this Explinger. Today, we're diving into something absolutely incredible, a true story of absolute justice, and an unforgettable chapter in Islamic history. So, settle in, because this is a story of faith, mercy, and the unyielding power of doing what is right. Think about this for a second. Has a victorious, fully entrenched army ever just packed up and surrendered a jewel of a conquered city? Not because they lost a battle, but totally by choice? In conventional military history, the answer is a resounding no, right? Armies bleed to take ground, and they fight even harder to keep it. But to see how this impossible event actually happened, we're going to journey back to the ancient heart of Central Asia. Chapter 1: The Conquest of Samarkand. Okay, to really understand the gravity of this, you have to know that Islamic warfare was uniquely governed by some incredibly strict ethical codes. Before swords were even drawn, Muslim armies had to follow a protocol of absolute fairness. Step 1. Issue a formal warning. Step 2. Wait a mandatory 3-day period. You have to give the other side time to prepare, negotiate, or surrender. And Step 3. Only then commence battle. These were absolute, unwavering principles of honor. But here's the twist. Recognizing just how massive and strong Samarkand was, General Qutayba bin Muslim actually bypassed this entire protocol. He launched a completely sudden, unannounced attack. Caught totally off guard, the mighty city fell. But this victory was tainted. The citizens of Samarkand were devastated, feeling a profound sense of injustice. And that grievance sets the stage for an extraordinary conflict. Chapter 2: A Journey to Damascus. The people of Samarkand weren't just going to accept this unfair defeat. They actually chose a priest to be their ambassador and go straight to the top to seek intervention. And this was no easy trip. It meant months of grueling, exhausting travel across completely unforgiving deserts. Driven by just the pure hope of justice, this weary traveler slowly made his way all the way from Central Asia to Damascus, the beating heart of the global Islamic empire. Chapter 3: The Humble Caliph. Now put yourself in this traveler's shoes. You finally arrive in Damascus. You're expecting a colossal palace, towering gates, armed guards everywhere, and this mighty emperor, right? But the reality he found was stunning. He finds a humble man covered in dust, quietly repairing a mud wall of a simple house with his own bare hands. The ambassador was completely shocked that Caliph Umar bin Abdulaziz, literally one of the most powerful rulers on earth at the time, lived with such breathtaking humility. Gathering his courage, the traveler approaches the caliph and says, "I've come from Samarkand, and injustice has been done to us." What happens next is just beautiful. There was no grand court, no endless bureaucratic red tape, no guards telling him to step back, no lengthy debates, just a ruler sitting quietly, giving his absolute, undivided attention to the plea of a defeated man. The caliph just sat and absorbed the heavy burden this traveler had carried across the desert. And after hearing him out, Caliph Umar bin Abdulaziz doesn't rally another army. He simply takes a tiny scrap of paper and writes one single powerful line. To the Qazi of Samarkand, order Commander Qutayba bin Muslim and his army to vacate the city immediately and restart the trial. He just hands this little piece of paper to the traveler. I mean, the poor guy was astounded and honestly super doubtful. He traveled for months and all he gets is a tiny note? He had to be thinking, there is absolutely no way a massive, victorious army is going to obey one single line of ink. Chapter 4: The Qazi's Historic Verdict. So, the extremely skeptical traveler makes the long trek back to Samarkand and hands this decree to the local Islamic judge, the Qazi. And the reaction? Immediate. The court is convened right away. Picture the tension in the air here. The Qazi summons the mighty General Qutayba bin Muslim, the very guy who just conquered the city, to stand trial right there in front of a huge public gathering. It was completely unprecedented. You have this victorious, deeply powerful military commander forced to bow his head and answer to the law. The Qazi looks right at the general in front of all these stunned citizens and asks one simple question. Did you give the mandatory 3-day warning? There was no dodging it. General Qutayba bin Muslim answered completely honestly. No. It was a tactic of war. The moment he admitted that, the Qazi didn't hesitate for a second. He delivered a ruling that honestly carries so much spiritual and historical weight. He looked at the general and simply declared, Islam does not permit deception. He ordered that the Muslim army had to immediately vacate the city, cross back over the river, and surrender their conquest. Let that sink in for a moment. A local judge, armed with literally nothing but the law and a scrap of paper from a humble caliph, had just ordered an invincible army to walk away from their greatest prize. And then the impossible actually happened. For the first and maybe the only time in world history, a victorious, occupying military force just packed up their camps. Thousands of soldiers gathered their gear, turned their backs on this grand city they had fought so hard for, and retreated across the river. They gave up the whole conquest, entirely out of submission to a judge's order and their devotion to divine justice. Chapter 5: The Power of True Justice. Imagine being a citizen of Samarkand standing on the city walls watching this happen. They were in absolute awe. I mean, they had seen empires rise and fall, but they had never seen a power that held itself accountable to such absolute, unwavering fairness. Seeing this incredible mercy and commitment to the truth, the people realized that a faith demanding that kind of rigorous justice had to be real. That very day, deeply moved by the character and ethics of the believers, thousands of Samarkand citizens recited the Kalima and embraced Islam. The greatest victory in Samarkand was never won by the sword. It was won by an uncompromising commitment to justice. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, think about it. If a single act of absolute justice, just one caliph's note, one judge's courage, and an army's submission can win thousands of hearts and literally echo through history, how can we apply this level of fairness and integrity in our own lives today, in our homes, our communities? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer of a truly incredible story. If this dive into history and spiritual wisdom inspired you, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the truth.